We are talking about sleep and perimenopause, why your rest feels so broken, and how we are going to fix it. Now, in this series, we've talked about fat redistribution, we've talked about insulin resistance, cortisol dysregulation, muscle loss. And if you've been listening across these episodes, you've probably noticed that sleep keeps showing up as a contributor, as an amplifier, as the thing underneath the thing. So today, it gets its very own episode because it truly deserves one. Sleep disruption in perimenopause is not just the side effect of getting older. It is not poor sleep hygiene, sometimes, but not always. It is a direct biologically driven consequence of the hormonal transition that you are in. And understanding why it's happening is going to change how we approach it and how much grace that you give yourself when you wake up at 3 a.m. for the fourth night in a row. So, how widespread is this actually? Up to 60% of perimenopause women report significant sleep disturbances. And in that SWAN study confirms that sleep complaints rise consistently across this menopausal transition, independent of age alone. This distinction really matters. It's not just what happens when you get older. This is something very specific to the hormonal window. And it's going to evolve across the transition, which is really worth understanding because where you are in perimenopause is going to shape what your sleep disruption actually looks like. In early perimenopause, when cycles are still present but irregular, sleep becomes somewhat unpredictable. So you might have some good nights mixed with bad ones, difficulty falling asleep some nights, fine the next. This is the progesterone starting to drop. That calming effect becomes really inconsistent. And the hormone variability itself is the driver here, not necessarily just low levels. Now, as we move to late perimenopause, as cycles become more regular or stop, the pattern's going to shift again. Night wakings are more frequent, early morning wakings become dominant, sleep fragmentation is more persistent and more severe. So the unpredictability of early perimenopause is going to move into something more chronically disrupted. This is when women say it stopped feeling like just a bad patch, and this started feeling like their new normal. So we have three distinct mechanisms that are breaking your sleep quality up. Sleep disruption in perimenopause is not one problem. It is three overlapping problems just hitting you all at once because that's fun. The first we have is progesterone. So progesterone is declining earlier and more sharply than estrogen during perimenopause. Most people don't realize that progesterone has this sedative quality. It acts on GABA receptors in the brain, and GABA is our primary calming neurotransmitter. It's going to promote relaxation. It's supporting sleep onset. Now, as ovulation also becomes less frequent and progesterone falls, the result is a nervous system running with less of its natural break. So you're getting that tired but wired feeling at night where your body is exhausted, but your brain, it just won't simply switch off. That is that progesterone loss in action. The second is thermoregulation. Estrogen is helping stabilize your body's core body temperature, its core set point, and as it fluctuates and declines, the hypothalamus becomes less efficient at regulating temperature. So the thermoregularity zone narrows, meaning small temperature changes trigger a response in your body. That hot flash is not just uncomfortable, it's a full event that's pulling you out of sleep. Even women without severe hot flashes experience disrupted sleep. So you've got vasomotor symptoms explaining a significant portion of perimenopause sleep disruption, but not all of it. The hormonal shifts are actually affecting sleep architecture directly and independently. Then we have three neurological. So estrogen is directly involved in regulating the neurotransmitters that govern your sleep-wake cycle. Serotonin, we've got dopamine, norepinephrine. As estrogen is fluctuating, the brain's sleep architecture changes. So you are spending less time in a slow wave sleep, less REM, and more time in the lighter stages, more awakenings, and the reduced ability to get back into that nice, deep sleep. This is why perimenopause sleep often feels non-restorative, even if total hours look the same. You were technically in bed for 8 hours. You might even have been asleep, but the sleep is fragmented and very shallow. So you wake up being like, did I even sleep at all? Now, what's actually changing in your brain during sleep? We have slow wave sleep, which is the deepest and more restorative stage. It is declining. This is where growth hormone is released, where tissue repair happens. Your body's actually recovering during this phase. Less of it means less physical restoration, regardless of how many hours you're spending in bed. So you're not recovering, you're not getting proper rest, and it's why you wake up exhausted. Sleep efficiency, which is the percentage of time in bed actually spent asleep, drops from about 85 to 90% in healthy premenopausal women, closer to 75 to 80% of women in perimenopause. That is a significant drop in sleep efficiency and explains why, again, you wake up tired. Waking after sleep onset is also going to increase. So that's the clinical term for lying awake in the middle of the night. You can't get back to sleep, and it becomes one of the defining features of perimenopausal sleep. The brain also shows an increased cortisol arousal during sleep. So you've got higher beta activity and a lower threshold for waking, a nervous system that is just fundamentally lighter in its sleep state than it's used to being. So you're waking up at unnecessary things because we're getting that cortisol response happening. Now, some women might find that they're really wired at night. They're tired all day and then suddenly alert the moment they try to sleep. So this is predominantly progesterone driven, combined with elevated evening cortisol and a circadian timing shift. Other women might find that they fall asleep just fine, but they're waking up consistently between 2 to 4 a.m. They cannot get back to sleep. So this tends to involve an early cortisol rise and that circadian phase shift, which is our internal body clock moving. And then some women are fragmented sleepers. So they're waking multiple times. They're never fully in a deep sleep. This is caused by increased cortisol arousal. We've got reduced wave sleep, and we have thermoregulatory instability. And then some women are just dealing with hot flash disruptors. They're woken up by sweating, throwing the covers off, and then lying awake while the nervous system is trying to settle back down. Now, it's important to understand that none of these are the same problem. And when we're just treating sleep the same way, it's very generic sleep advice and it fails. And it's why we can't get a good solid sleep. Poor sleep also raises cortisol reactivity for the following day. So we've got elevated cortisol making insulin sensitivity worse. Impaired insulin sensitivity is driving up cravings and fat storage. We've got poor sleep directly impairing the muscle recovery. The repair cells that rebuild the muscle after training are affected, and disrupted sleep typically means disrupted recovery. So the training that you're doing is producing less results than it should. So it's all working together here to create this perfect storm. Every pillar that we've already discussed, fat, insulin resistance, cortisol, muscle, has sleep running through it as an amplifier. It is the thread that's connecting them all. And then we've got what poor sleep does to your appetite. So sleep disruption directly alters two key hunger hormones. When it's broken, when it's shallow, our hunger hormone is going up, our full hormone is going down. So you're waking up hungrier, you're less satisfied after eating, you've got cravings for high sugar, high fat foods. So this is a hormonal response to a night of broken sleep. And in perimenopause, when cortisol dysregulation is already increasing and that drive for quick energy foods is already there, you've already got insulin resistance making glucose management harder. Disrupted sleep adds another layer of pressure onto the same system. So the result is this body that's just storing fat, and pushing you towards foods that are actually increasing storage even more. And you're exhausted and your motivation is low. So this sleep better advice often really fails for a lot of women because it's not just about sleep hygiene. We can't fully resolve it through behavioral changes alone because the disruption is not behavioral. It is hormonal. It is neurological. Telling a woman whose sleep is being shattered by hot flashes to practice better sleep hygiene is like telling someone with a broken leg to walk it off. The underlying hormonal instability needs to be addressed first. Until it is, these lifestyle interventions have a limited ceiling. That said, there is a psychological layer that develops on top of the physiological one. Because when we have chronic poor sleep, this is creating sleep anxiety. You start anticipating the bad night. You become conditioned to wakefulness in your own bed. This is a real phenomenon that's happening, this chronic insomnia loop, and it can persist even after the hormonal environment has stabilized. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, so CBTI, is a really supportive intervention if you're noticing that you're getting this anxiety before bed. Other things that you can do, blood sugar stability overnight matters because if we have significant glucose drops during the night, this is going to trigger cortisol release and contribute to waking up early. We want to have a protein forward eating patterns. We discussed this a lot in the previous episodes of making sure that you're eating a lot more protein than you're used to, eating it before or at the start of your meals so that you get enough in your day. Also, evening cortisol management is going to help a lot. We talked about this in the past episode. This is going to affect your sleep onset. So anything that reduces sympathetic nervous system activation in the 3 hours before bed, you want to really take it seriously here because you are more sensitive. Resistance training is improving sleep quality, not just duration, but the depth of your sleep and how long you can sleep for. And of course, temperature management. So cooling the sleep environment as much as you can, lightweight bedding, whatever will reduce the impact of night sweats. It's not solving the underlying thermoregulatory disruption, but it's reducing how much it affects your sleep. Sleep in perimenopause is lighter, it's more disrupted, it's less predictable, and it's less restorative than it used to be because the hormonal environment has changed. The ability to fall asleep, easy to stay asleep, has changed. And understanding which pattern that you're in and why is the starting point for actually addressing it, not just with generic advice, but really targeted interventions that are matching where you are in your phase of this transition. Sleep is a non-negotiable part of the work that we do with our clients. It's not a nice to have. It is a foundational pillar because we know if you're getting deep restorative sleep, not just 8 hours, but you're actually getting that deep restorative good quality sleep, everything's better. Your energy is better. Your mood is better. Your ability to lose fat, your recovery is better. The transition through menopause is better. So we want to focus on that quality. So first we want to understand what is causing that sleep disruption, where you are in the phase of sleep disruption, and then having targeted interventions that are working specifically for where you are in this phase. Now, as always, if you're looking for help and support on this journey, I'd be honored to guide you. We do offer a free consult to see what is going on, what might be causing your symptoms, and if we can help you. So I'll leave a link in the show notes to book a complimentary assessment and see if we can help.